They're people that can take a big idea, catch it, break it apart, build a process with it, and keep going. The Henry Ford system, right? Like Henry Ford was successful because he built a process for how to, manufacture thousands, millions of cars, right? And so the process is oftentimes lost in a lot of businesses, and entrepreneurs can get so far on their own, and then they either burn out or there was never a process, so it breaks when you're trying to grow it. And I've learned that the processes to grow your business at $1 million are different than when you're at 5 million. You need to change. And so the willingness also to break those processes, evolve those processes, or protect those processes are really important. And you got to know when you break it, evolve it, or protect it.
Hey, everybody, and welcome back to Over a Pint, the podcast that puts the focus on the fast-paced world of marketing told through the eyes of industry veterans. We try to give you real-world practical experience all the time. Back with me, Vice President of Celtic Advertising, a full-service agency located in Milwaukee's historic 3rd Ward, Mr. Kurtl. Myself, Director of New Business Development, at the award-winning agency, Acedia. I'm Pat McGovern. Kurt, I'm looking forward to this one.
Me too.
Today we are joined by Jessica Nunez. Check this out. Jessica is the founder and president of TruePoint Communications. TruePoint is one of the fastest top 100 PR agencies in the nation, a 3-time recipient of the Inc. 5000 fastest growing privately owned companies in the U.S. On top of that, Jessica has some big brands in her background, spokesperson for AT&T, and also for Fleischmann Hillard. For those listening not familiar with Fleischmann, it's probably one of the largest global PR agencies there is. Jessica, welcome to the pod.
Thank you, Pat. Kurt, happy to be here.
Happy to have you.
Jessica, it's called Over a Pint for a reason. We usually take a couple minutes and just go around the table, see what everybody's got in front of them. You're the guest. You go first.
Well, sorry to disappoint the listeners. I do not have a pint, unless it's a pint of tea, which I can consume. Today, it is just
okay.
It's a Twinings English breakfast, and I always love a fun little mug. So this one says inhale and exhale, a reminder to breathe.
There we go.
Good message.
Mr. Lingo, what do you have, sir?
Well, I'm gonna go a complete 180 from what Jessica just did. So I actually just popped open a Fresh Coast IPA from a brewery up in Sheboygan called Three Sheeps Brewing Company. I love that brewery. They're doing great stuff. I love their beer. So cheers, and it's great to have you on, Jessica.
Cheers.
And I'm going to be knocking back a Stone Hearth Dunkelweizen from the Fermatorium. This is a local brewing. They've got some great beers out here. I'm excited about this one.
I feel like
Jessica, thank you so much.
Yeah, Prost.
Prost, everybody. So, Jessica, let's start with you. Give us, the listeners, give us your background. Like, tell us your story. You're in the hot seat here. Give us a little, what you are all about. Let me start there.
Thanks, Pat. Well, I'm Jessica Nunez, founder of TruePoint Communications. I started the agency 15 years ago. Oftentimes I say I was 15 when I started it. I wasn't 15. But I was young. I was only 27 years old. I had a 4-month-old baby. A lot of women do not start endeavors right after having children. So I made the decision when she was about a month old that this is what I was going to do. And I had the great fortune of, as you mentioned in the intro, working for a top 3 global consulting firm in Fleischmann, with Fleischmann, and really enjoyed it. And I call it the mothership. It was great to come from the mothership and get an opportunity to work on real big brands there. And I knew though, like even when I was there, I worked on the innovation team. I knew I wanted to innovate and grow. And in college, I actually had this dream to start an agency, and dream as in a desire, not some prolific dream I had, but and wake up one day. But it was something that formed in college for me. And I went to my professor and he said, you know, I think you should probably go out and get some experience first. And so that is something I always tell people is even someone who started at 27, looking back, I would have gotten more experience. Instead, I went to the Hard Knocks School of Business, and that is a very costly degree, you know, because you learn as you go. So 27 years old, started the agency originally with a partner, dissolved that after about 3 years, and turned around and started what today is TruePoint. And we are a team of 32 professionals, consultants, and our people are our product. So Tom's makes shoes, Warby Parker makes glasses. At TruePoint, we develop great people. And it's a big part of what we do. Today we have TruePoint University, which is training that we invest in our team and programming that we invest. And we're actually in 2022 so excited. In February, we'll be expanding TruePoint University externally to people just who want to get better in the industry, build their soft skills, build their skill set in PR and social media. So that's who we are today.
Wow, that's quite a story. Let me ask you this, Jessica, because I'm just really, really interested in this. Now, you started at 27. You've been doing this 15 years. You've got a little bit of breathing room, right? You've been in this space for a while. You're up to 32 people. That's Kurt, you know this. I mean, this is a crazy business, right? I mean, this is just an up and down every day, day in and day out.
Very volatile.
Jessica, tell me, give us some of the surprises that you ran into over these 15 years that it's like, you know, both good and bad, like, whoa, didn't see this come in, or holy cow, this was, you know, and conversely, this was much easier than I thought. I thought this part was going to be, you know, problematic. Love just to get your big surprises. Yeah,
Pat, Kurt. So first I would tell you, nothing has been easy. I mean, I wish I could tell you that as soon as you said that, something popped in my head. It's like, oh yeah, this was really easy. I don't think building a business, one, is easy. I have never actually met any entrepreneur in any industry who told me it was, you know, a breeze. Maybe I'm in the wrong industry. I don't know. We're talking to the wrong people. I don't know. But, you know, it's not been easy. It has been fun. It has been very fulfilling. And it has been a perfect fit for me, in the sense of like as close as you can get to perfect as a career. It's been a great fit for me, very fulfilling. Surprises, you know, is, you know, that we're here today. I think like we just won our finalists for PRSA Dallas Large Agency of the Year. Like that. Like, wow! What?
Congratulations.
Thank you. And that was so exciting. And our team, you know, we knew they put that award up and they put us in there. And whether we win or we don't, it's a huge win for us already, because this was a dream that I started and it was born out of, as it grew, it really was propel people forward. Why do I wake up every day and do this? Is because I can propel people forward. I can grow people. I can catalyze and propel brands forward. And to me, I think the surprise that I've learned through all of this is that while business is capitalism and its growth, the people part of it and the idea that like, wow, I helped that person get there, I developed them, or TruePoint did that, or because TruePoint built this program, this brand is where they are today. I never realized how fulfilling that could be. And it it feels awesome. It's great. And I have two daughters now, 15 and 8 years old, and they get it. When I hear them say stuff like, ask about employees at TruePoint, or that they care about, that they have a relationship, or ask about brands that we work with, that blows my mind. I never talked to my parents about business growing up, and my daughters are, and so I think about how I'm shaping their future, and that makes me really proud.
That's awesome. Jessica, I wonder if I could. I wonder if we went to school together, because you said the school of hard knocks, and I appreciate your answer. Nothing's easy. It's and you're right. From my perspective, building and leading a business, it is not easy. There are a lot. It's a roller coaster. I appreciate your honesty. Let me ask you this. So day one, when you start your agency, so this was a true startup. This was not, day one. What was day one like? I mean, did you have anything to work with? Were there clients? I mean, talk to me, like, what was going through your mind your day one?
So Kurt, I have a vivid memory of day one. And like, I'm getting emotional. Nobody's ever asked me that question, and it brought emotion to the forefront. I had day one, a half naked 4-month-old baby on my left thigh, bouncing her at a glass table in my dining room. That was my husband's glass table from college. Like, imagine the bachelor pad with the glass table. Who knows what happened there? And some gigantic Sony laptop that I got at Best Buy on a hot deal because I had no budget. And I can remember putting her down in her little, playpen or whatever she was seat to chill out in, and taking client calls. And my business partner at the time, was really fantastic. Networking brought an opportunity for us for CompUSA. And so CompUSA at the time was the third largest electronics retailer. There was Circuit City in second, and Best Buy, today, you still know about. And so they were going through this battle of consumer electronics, right? Like, everything was shifting to online, and who is going to survive it? And, they decided to overhaul the entire leadership team and move things out and make some big changes there. And we had the opportunity to come on board and work with them. And the 2 years of a liquidation and oversee all of that. And it really catalyzed our growth. And CompUSA was the first brand to open up on Thanksgiving. So they actually opened their doors, and we positioned it all as like, have Thanksgiving with your family, but come afterwards for dessert and pie. And we gave every store a budget. They went to a bakery and they bought pumpkin pies, and everybody who waited in line outside got a slice of pie. And then they got their good consumer electronic deals. So that was us launching. It was, one great client, and give it everything you have and invest completely in it. And then meanwhile, raising a family, and that's the thing. I didn't know anything about being a mom. What did I know about being an entrepreneur? I was so naive that all I knew is just give it everything you have. Give what you have to the business, give what you have to your family. Those are the only two things in front of you, and go. And that's all I've ever done.
Do you think Jessica, to some degree, that played a benefit to you? Sometimes when we know too much, or we overthink it, or we have this playbook in hand, it's like sometimes we see the best successes just come from pure adrenaline and instinct. I'm just curious. I mean, was that probably a part?
100% is the naivete of, I don't know. I mean, just go do it. Like, I can remember taking a flight to New York one time at 6 a.m. and I booked it to fly back the same night, and I had no idea what we were going to do. We were launching Microsoft Vista software, like, so crazy, like some of the software you think back, and I had no idea what we were going to do, but we were going to pull it all together. And there's this saying, but by hell or high water, like, it's going to happen. Like, that was my mentality. Like, this is going to happen, and I will do whatever it takes. So I think there was a bit of naivete, and that. There's a favorite book I have, if you guys have read Shoe Dog.
I have not.
Familiar, have not read it.
Oh, it's one of my favorite books. It's the Nike founder, and he is, so laid back. Like, and I'm not. I'm very much like, what's the process? What do we need to do? And I tend to lean towards the overthinking piece. And I remind myself, like, just go with it. And I think I do best when I just say, you know what? we got the parachute, we'll figure out, or like we're building the plane as we go. We know we can do this. We've built a plane before, let's build it. He just is somebody that I try to lean more towards being like. And I guess, is it Phil Knight? Is that the founder of Nike?
Yep.
Because, man, he trusted so many people and he just had this idea and he was naive in some ways and he just went with it. And then look what he built.
Yep.
That's awesome.
Jessica, you it's listed on your site that you're named one of the top business leaders in the space. So, and you touched on this a little bit, but what are your superpowers as a business leader, as an agency owner? I mean, what are the things that's like, this is what makes you stand out? What are those
I never
things?
would have known this day one. I didn't know a lot of this getting into business, but now I get it and I see why businesses don't succeed. And I've coached a lot of entrepreneurs. I coach a lot of female entrepreneurs. Processes. There's so many people who are visionary, big idea, bomb droppers. They'll walk in a room and they have great big ideas, but they don't know how to execute, and they don't know how to execute it in a feasible, reoccurring way. And I think that the reason at TruePoint we've been successful is not just myself, but in our team, we have process-oriented people. And they're people that can take a big idea, catch it, break it apart, build a process with it and keep going. The Henry Ford system, right? Like Henry Ford was successful because he built a process for how to, manufacture thousands, millions of cars, right? And so the process is oftentimes lost in a lot of businesses, and entrepreneurs can get so far on their own and then they either burn out or there was never a process, so it breaks when you're trying to grow it. And I've learned that the processes to grow your business at $1 million are different than when you're at 5 million. You need to change. And so the willingness also to break those processes, evolve those processes, or protect those processes are really important. And you got to know when you break it, evolve it, or protect it.
So good.
That's interesting. When you were saying about the processes and execution, I had a boss very early on in my career, and I will tell you, she taught me a lot. Probably one of the most influential bosses I had in the ad industry, and she used to tell our team, strategize with execution in mind. And by no means was she dismissing the importance of strategy. We need strategy, we need the big idea, but what she was trying to tell us and teach the account team was that at the end of the day, how many great ideas have fallen by the wayside because no one could really pull them together and bring them to life. Mm-hmm. And execution and processes can be very creative too. That's where you can make something better. It doesn't mean it's not like you're just you can really make something go from great to brilliant through processes or really just smart execution.
100%. Yeah. I learned that, like you, Kurt, really early on in my career. I had a boss. We were launching a real big, first of its kind technology, high-speed internet access, which is so funny to say. There was a time when it didn't exist, and people had to move from dial-up to high-speed internet, and they didn't want to leave their dial-up. Remember that phone call?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
People didn't want to give that up. They were really comfortable with it. And we had to transition and educate people on why you should give that up and move to high-speed internet access and all the opportunities you'd have. And my boss came to me and he was like, I need you to build this big plan and I need you to bring the biggest ideas. And I remember I was so proud of like one of these big ideas. It was like I wanted to wrap the tallest building in a big, huge city. And like wrap it from the bottom to the very top so the whole world would see it and it would be like this big deal and it was gonna have this message on it and everything. And I remember my boss saying like, that's creative and everything, but it's just not cost effective. And I think that there's so many brands who just don't have the budget to just drop on big, huge, things like that. Attention grabbing things, and people want to grab attention without the spend. I mean, that's why memes and virality has caught everyone's attention because it's like, wow, that costs nothing to go viral, and it was positive for the brand. But everybody shifted their attention to the Seth Godin, approach, and how do we create virality? Because if we do that, that would be amazing. It'll not only create awareness for our brand, but it also doesn't really cost anything. And so, or that's the perception at least. But yeah, I mean, I learned that. I can remember that day going back to my desk and saying, okay, I get it. You want a big, great idea that doesn't cost a lot of money. And is executable. Like, we could get it done in 90 days. All right, let me change my thinking.
Yeah. You know what's interesting is I was doing some research on you and your company, and Pat, you hit it on the head. You were going through the accolades that Jessica has, that our company has. I mean, it's there, and you named them off appropriately. It's very impressive. The one thing though that I started to pay attention to, and above and beyond the accolades, I started to dig into the verbiage on your website. I started looking to your social channels, and you kind of alluded to this earlier, Jessica. Culture is something that's very important to me, and I pay attention to companies' culture. And that too is hard, right? You started a business. I mean, it's building a culture, maintaining a culture. That's not easy either. But I look at your social posts, and it was interesting. I see a lot of your people. I see a lot of mention about the team. Then I hear it from you earlier on in this interview. There was some consistency. You were talking about that as well. True pointers. I mean, it's clearly that's something that's very important to you, and you've probably have paid a lot of attention to help. I mean, it's you, but it's also a team of true pointers, as you say it, behind you that are making you and your clients successful. Correct?
100%. I think it was me for a long time driving, and I'm not driving anymore. If anything, I feel like I'm the maintenance. I'm the bring it in. Let me fuel it up. Let me fuel you guys up. Let me get us moving again, and let me maintain you and make sure you don't burn out and you grow and you're getting better and evolving to the next version of yourself. Is my job. And as soon as I learned that, our company catalyzed and grew more. I wouldn't even say they're behind me. I'd say they're leading the charge and I'm behind them. There's you can tell I read a lot of books. I love to read books. And there's a Simon Sinek book where it says leaders eat last, a quote in the book. And I remember when I read that book, and my dad is in the military, and we were talking about it. And in the Marines, when the troops come in, in a lot of places you go to, the senior leadership, they eat first, they get a different meal, they have this different experience because they're senior leadership. But the guys on the front line, they're the ones who are making it happen. They're the ones who are, working so hard. And I loved this quote in the book where it said leaders eat last, because in the Marines, the troops eat first. The people in the front lines, they're the ones, they get fed, they get refueled. If we run out of time, those guys are re-energized and refueled, and they're ready to go for round 2. The leaders will figure it out. And that resonated with me, and I took it to heart. And I made sure that everything I did was putting my team at the forefront and was saying, how do we refuel them? How do we re-energize them? So for example, we're a hybrid work environment. We always have been before COVID. Since I launched the company with a 4-month-old baby, I understood as a mother the need for hybrid. And we employ a lot of moms because I recognize that is a unique need as a parent. And we would employ fathers too. We don't have any yet, but we would love to. And we provide a lot of flexibility for parents. And so for me, it's been really important to understand their needs. And when we ask them to come back hybrid, meaning the ones who are in Dallas, hey guys, we want you to come back in a couple days a week. And the reason why is we're growing really fast, and we have a lot of new people, and we think they're going to learn better when you guys are together, and y'all can quickly exchange information, overhear a conversation, the things you don't always get being virtual. And they understood that. And we said, and we know one of the things y'all love about working from home is that you can walk to your kitchen and get food. And so we're shifted our budget and we're making room to feed our team once a week, bringing in Chick-fil-A, bringing in, whatever great meals, Chipotle, things that they'll really get excited about and love. And they love coming into the office. And they only come a couple days, 2 or 3 days, but when they do, they're energized, they're fueled up, and everybody shows up on Wednesdays because they're all having lunch together. And so we try to pay attention to what is the need of the employee, not just the need of the client, not just the need for TruePoint, but what does the team need?
Yeah. Yeah,
Jessica,
go ahead, Pat.
Jessica, you mentioned something, and I want to just take a minute here to kind of dive in a little bit deeper. And that is you at one point were going out, you were leading, you were doing all the things because you had to do that. You were starting the business, right? You were the frontline person. And now you've taken a different type of role. And you said once you did that, the business really kind of accelerated even more, right? That statement, though, is really powerful because how did you get to that point? At what point did you say, like, wait a second, maybe I'm more valuable in a secondary, non-front facing kind of position? And everybody's got egos. It's like, no, like I know all the answers. I could do all, like, that's a really critical thing. So talk to us about how you made that transition.
It was another great entrepreneur, the founder of LinkedIn, Reed. I can't remember his last name off the top of my head, but I was listening to one of his podcasts. I don't know if it's How I Built This or How to Scale. And the takeaway was in tennis, and I don't play tennis, so bear with me if anybody's a tennis aficionado out there, expert player. There's a line in tennis, and if you step over the line, it's a point deduction. Okay. And he brought the concept he brought it back to was the 80-20 rule. If I give something to you, Pat, that I own and it's mine, and I know that if I do this, it'll get to the finish line. But if I'm doing that, I'm not doing this other thing over here. So I know you're 80% likely to be able to do what I do. You can get it to 80%. If you can get it to 80%, Pat, you should be doing it, not me. And I need to absorb that 20% foot fault is what it's called in tennis. So I'll take the foot fault that we might get, Pat, if you don't get it to 100%. So I'm okay with that. So if we open up what you just did and we go through it together and say, oh, okay, I see, I would have done this different, but man, you brought this to it. And while you did that, I went over here and did this. Pretty soon, what you might also find is that Pat maybe didn't even get it to 80. Maybe Pat got it to 120. Maybe he did it 20% better than I did when I was doing it. But you'll never know if you're not willing to give it to somebody and tell them, like, hey, if you can get it 80% there, I'm good with it. And that's what I did. And I learned to step away and say 80% is good enough. And that's really important for me because I'm also very much, people who know me know I'm very much a perfectionist. And as soon as I could accept 80% as my new level of perfection for maybe not everything I do in my life and maybe not me, but for certain things, then the business started to scale and grow. And not only that, then people know you believe in them.
Awesome. That's so cool, Jessica, listening to the story and how you built the business. Let's pivot a little bit right now, and let's get into an area that I just find fascinating, which is PR communications. And the reason I find it really, really interesting is I think it's such a valuable tool in a marketer's toolbox, and yet one of the most misunderstood. And my thesis is that a lot of sharp people just don't get PR. Jessica, talk to me about that. Is that right, wrong?
100%.
Do you feel like they get it? And okay, cool. Why? Why is that?
I think because PR is one of those things that people define for themselves. It's like a lot of businesses, I would say. I don't take it personal to PR. My husband is a mortgage loan officer and he finances residential homes. I would tell you, I don't know a whole lot about his business, but I do know that a lot of people don't know what they're doing when they go get a mortgage. And they really rely on the person in the business to be the expert for them. And that's great and is good if you get a good person. But so I've learned like that's kind of with a lot of businesses. But also I think over generations, PR has been in movies. There's Wag the Dog. There's there's TV shows about publicists, and you have your White House publicists and spokespeople, and so people tend to blur the lines of like, what does it mean to be in PR? When I tell people, hey, PR is a management function, and it is a reputation management function for many brands. That is how they generally best understand it. If I tell people also, PR you pray for, advertising you pay for, they tend to get that too. And so, I would say a lot of times we'll start a meeting with, if you're engaging us and you've never had a PR before, even if it's a big company, we'll ask the head of marketing, hey, what's your perception of PR? Because a CMO might see PR as a piece on their marketing umbrella, right? They see it as a point on the umbrella. Like, I exercise PR, you guys are important, you can drive sales revenue. Also, PR I oftentimes will tell people it's a gray line to revenue. Mm-hmm. There are times you can directly see it. So I'll give you a great example. The Chipotle brand crisis from, 2015? The salmonella or the lettuce, issue that they had. You could watch their stock price drop and not bounce back for 2 years. Now they've recovered themselves and they're up higher than they were back in 2015. But I oftentimes will tell you, look at a brand in a reputation crisis, and if they're publicly traded, watch the stock price, and that will show you the line to revenue that PR has and brand reputation management has. And also when a brand launches something really well with PR, or they do a PR stunt, watch the stock price ratchet up. And so that's something a lot of privately owned startup entrepreneurs may not pay attention to. And so helping educate them on that and realizing that it may feel like a gray line to revenue because you don't have a stock ticker that you're looking at, but you got to find a way to measure that for your brand.
So let's hang on that crisis.
I was going to ask her, Jessica, with PR, it's, I appreciate what you're saying. It's so hard to define it. I was kind of thinking in my mind when you were describing PR and like, it seems like every movie I watch or it's like everyone's in PR or marketing. It's like, doesn't it seem like the lead character is in PR or marketing? It's like, got an ad agency. And it's like, oh boy. No one really knows what that means. It's just, we're out there doing PR. Get me some PR. But you know what? It's such a wide deliverable though. As you're going into it, it's like there's the, it's beyond the press release, crisis communication, storytelling. You said it, just product launches. It can be very creative. It's a campaign. It's so wide. And I like what you said. It really depends on who you're asking or what their baseline interpretation might be. It's all over the board, and it can be all over the board.
Yes, 100% agree. Yep.
Let's hang on for the crisis communication portion of this, Jessica. You brought up Chipotle. I know crisis communication is one of the areas that you and your team really focus on. When a crisis happens, talk to us how you get into action. What do you start doing? What's the diagnostic that you start and that process that you start taking your clients through?
Yeah, that's a great question. So first and foremost, we train our team and our clients that a crisis is a business issue. And the reason that's really important to understand is when an executive believes that a crisis, a communication or a PR nightmare or PR issue, how it's traditionally been recorded or spun out, news media will say, X brand company is under a PR crisis today. It's not a communication brand issue. It first started as a business issue. So if you have go back and look at Chipotle, if we're talking about that, and I feel bad because to not to rake them over the coals, but let's acknowledge that they have gotten through their crisis. They are in a very successful place today, and they're doing a great job. And I enjoy eating Chipotle. But let's use it as a great business case study. So they obviously had some business issues with inside the business, because they were allowing time after time these supply chain issues potentially, right? I'm not in their business, so I don't know. But as I audited it and evaluated it, I kind of said, well, either they have some passive management issues, there's somebody who's they're not digging into this. They're not looking at why they keep ending up with lettuce that was getting people sick. How are they holding their suppliers accountable? How are they following up when they have incident reports of things like this happening within stores? And now you're seeing more accountability around the business issue with brands. You're seeing more brands shut down, do a full thorough cleaning, retrain people on how to handle food products. And they wouldn't have to shut down for a full day of business if they would continue to consistently do that training within their business, or audit their business, audit their suppliers, hold their suppliers up to their level of training and their standard. And instead, that didn't happen within the business. Their stock price plummeted. People stopped eating there. They had to shut down, close down your business. I mean, could you imagine at our size business, me shutting down and telling everybody we can't take any clients, we can't serve any clients, we can't do anything, we're not going to get paid because we haven't been doing our job? That would be detrimental. I don't know that I could recover like Chipotle did. So what we help clients understand is, where's the issue within the business? And that's a better partner to you than just slapping lipstick on a pig and recovering, every time a crisis happens. And so being a better partner to them and helping them uncover those. And we've done that with a lot of brands and help them navigate that. And a lot of times there's, trust issues within businesses with different entities. They feel, this executive feels they're being called out for their supply chain issues or something, or this guy's not performing. And it's like, hey, let's put all the ego aside and let's just address the facts that we have, and let's resolve from there and move forward. And we've helped a lot of clients do that, which you would say is a lot more than, mitigating a crisis. We do that too, and we help handle what's happening externally, but you have to address what's happening internally.
I really like that, you coming in and kind of listening before you start determining what you want to do. That in and of itself is, I think, is pretty special and unique. Jessica, the other thing I want to touch on is something that, again, is really close to me. We talked a lot about it here on the podcast. We just did a great one, our last podcast with Stacey Nash, and that is storytelling. Storytelling is a word, I think it's almost overused. Everybody's a storyteller, or at least everybody claims they're a storyteller. And I think few organizations and few people really are storytellers. Talk to us a little bit about how you go about in your team finding the right story to tell, right? When you start engaging with a client, how do you go about that process? How do you find what's going to really kind of resonate in move the needle, whatever direction the business wants to go? Talk to us about that.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think storytelling has become our new, jargon, our new overused term, but it's an important one. And to me, storytelling is connection. It's connecting to your core audience and finding the stories, the attributes of the brand that connect and create not just I think with storytelling, we're not looking for a transactional connection. We're looking for an ongoing connection with the brand. And that is the opportunity that I think a lot of brands miss. Everybody says, hey, I want PR, I want to be known for this. And the reality is we live in a sea of sameness and we're swimming through it. And, new restaurants pop up all the time. New products are launched every day. People get promoted. People launch companies. And, aside from Elon Musk, who's really doing anything revolutionary? And Jeff Bezos, right? If you think about who is doing that, And so for a brand, it's how do you build a connection and how do you tell your story that either, connects to the lifestyle benefits of your consumer or drives value to your business client, and it's really about them, not about you. How are you a part of that? And I think that's what's missed is everybody wants to be really transactional, get this out, tell the world about it, sell these products, sell them out. And it's like, well, why are we doing all this? Step back. What's the bigger strategy, and what are the attributes of the brand that really build a connection that people, will be loyal to you?
Yeah. It's part of that being authentic. It's like sometimes, it's you're right. It's when we work through brand persona exercises, it's sometimes you're surprised at what you see in the mirror. Mm-hmm. And sometimes that's good and sometimes it's bad. Sometimes someone will see themselves in the mirror and say, "Oh my gosh, that isn't right." Yeah. And it's revealing. And then there's other times where it is revealing in a good way. It's like, this is who you are. And I like how it's not just about telling the story, but how do you find the story? And it's like, be authentic, be true to yourself. That's okay. We aren't everything to everyone, and I can't be Pat and I can't be Jessica. It's like, I'm Kurt. What's good about that? And let's bring that out.
Absolutely. I'm actually part of this brand called Kizik, K-I-Z-I-K, and it's hands-free footwear. Actually, I'm wearing them right now. They are basically just you pop in, you never have to wiggle or squirm your foot in again. You don't have to crush the heel down. And it's hands-free technology, and the founder is out of Utah. And got to be part of this brand. And I was on their Facebook page last night. I was kind of just looking at some of the things customers had said, and somebody was buying a product from Canada. And the brand's only 4 or 5 years old now, and they don't really have distribution in Canada. We're a U.S. brand, started out of Utah, really focused on amazing, cool, innovative technology to change the footwear industry and wake it up, and they're doing that. And somebody was having an issue with return. And, they posted back a response that was like, hey, sorry to hear that. And then later they came back in and they said, hey, we just want to let you know, we don't really have distribution in Canada. So we're trying to figure this out. And we appreciate you working with us. And it was like they humanized the brand. It's like a reminder that like, hey, dude, we're figuring this out. Like we're really focused on the innovation and the technology. Nobody's trying to hurt you. We're so excited that you bought our shoes. Let us work on figuring out how to get you the shoes that you need and get through shipping shoes across the nation in a global pandemic, across the world, and everything else. And I just thought, well done, because so many times we want to be like, say the right, perfect corporate brand message. And I don't think that exists anymore. I think that that's not authentic. That's not part of, you can't be storytelling over here and marketing and then some robotic corporate messaging on your social media. Like those two things don't live together. If you're going to be this storytelling, humanizing your brand, then you got to pull it all the way through and humanize it down to the customer experience, which means you got to change the way people talk to your clients on the front lines, from the person at the store level, at the cash register, the point of sale, to the person responding on community management, and being real and saying, hey, Kurt, we really appreciate you shopping us. Canada's not been a target market for us. We're still figuring that out. We didn't anticipate seeing this happen, and we're working on it. We're not bad people, And so I think the world needs a dose of that, honestly, especially with the level of trolling that exists on the internet. I didn't realize there were so many perfect people walking around.
Right. It's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Someone left me out of the party.
Me too.
Jessica, you got a ton of things going on. You're running a business. You've got a family. You're an avid reader from all the books that you've quoted. You've got a lot of things happening. So how do you keep it all going? Like, seriously, what are the hacks that you use to like keep a high energy level going? Keep like everything focused. I mean, what do you do?
Yeah. I am really accountable person to myself, to my family. I do a lot of check-ins. I ask my family, hey, how do you guys feel about if I serve in this role, it's going to require me to travel, or hey, I'm thinking about getting back into this. And I have those discussions with my family, my kids, and ultimately I'm going to make the decision, and they know that, and I'll tell them why I made the decision. It doesn't always align with how my 8-year-old feels. That's not what it's about, but I can hear what her concerns are, or I can know what her feelings or her fears are as mommy goes and does these things, and I am aware of it, and we can talk about it. It doesn't mean I'm not going to go and do the things that I am passionate about doing, but it does help me understand. And in doing so, for example, my 15-year-old, she traveled a lot with me, grew up sitting in green rooms as I would do TV segments. I do a lot of on-camera spokesperson work. She'd sit in the green room. She's very mature. She would read me where we're going next. My 8-year-old today people would ask me during the pandemic, how do you manage your kids? This is all my kids have ever known. They know when mommy's in the office at home or daddy's in the office at home, you don't open the door. You don't go in. If the door is open, come on in. If I'm on a Zoom call, I bring my kids on if the door's open, and I'm not ashamed for them to see my children. I'm accountable to being a mother, a wife, and a business owner and a leader. I'm accountable to my clients. So, there are nights I won't go to bed till I get something done because I need to get it done. I need to read. I notice that when I don't read or I don't absorb new information and learn, I get conflicted. I start getting not fuzzy. It's a escape for me. I like to hike. I actually prioritize those things ahead of time. I'm a crazy planner. At the beginning of the year and that quiet time period from the last week of the year to the first week of the year, I plan when we're going on vacations, everything that we're doing. I plan out individual time with my kids, with my husband, hiking. If it's the things that I enjoy, I make time for.
That's great. Hey, Pat, I got one final question for Jessica. So Jessica, here's my question for you. So and there's no right or wrong answer, but it's like, in your professional career only, because is there any point in your professional career that you would want to go back and do a do-over? And it's not a trick question. It's like, but is there one spot where you said, I wish I could do a do-over?
I have tons. You want me to actually pick one and tell you? I have so many.
It's up to you. I don't know. I'm just kind of curious, because usually people ask, what's that one pivotal moment that changed it? And I'm always like, well, but a do-over isn't bad either. It's like, but where in your career, if I could do that over, or if I could maybe take a slight bend to the left instead of going to the, I'm just kind of curious. Yeah,
I have a ton, and I don't look at it as I'm not crying over spilled milk. I'm not oh, I wish I could go back and change it. Not like that, but legitimate do-overs, I'm aware of them, so I don't do them again. I probably wouldn't have, I might not have launched the business the same way I did going back. Not about the business partner piece, but somebody asked me the other day, would you have launched when you did? And I kind of wonder, man, if I'd had another 5 or 10 years under my belt, would that have been different in the way that I approached launching the business? I don't know. I'm really happy with the way I did it, but sometimes I wonder about those things. I would have let some people go faster. I would have hired some people more quickly. I would have let people lead faster that I didn't know. I just didn't know. I didn't know. It wasn't about them. It's just I didn't know. I would have distanced myself from some people. I would have engaged others more quickly and more deeply. I think that I would have, there's times I wish I would have bet on myself more. I wish I would have doubled down. An example of that would be, there was a time that I scaled the company And I didn't take a line of credit, and this is getting real businessy here. Like some people go out and they get investment dollars, they go take a line of credit, they could do whatever. And I didn't. And I decided to bootstrap it. And that was extremely stressful year for me. Basically, like if somebody would have sneezed too hard, I would have lost everything, and it was just like, not like we would have lost everything. Like we ended up growing, like it was the best investment and we grew. But man, if I would have just taken that line of credit and not been afraid, I come from a background where I didn't have anything. I come from a very poor family. Being poor was like the idea of living that way and doing that to my family because of a decision that I made really scared me. And I was really fearful of that. And so I, in hindsight, would have bet on myself and said, yeah, take that line of credit and let's keep moving. And here we are today. Like we made it, but it was my double down investment that I made on the company and bootstrapped the company when I could have had a lot more breathing room if I'd have taken the line of credit.
I am really, really glad I asked you that question because you gave me far more than what I thought I was going to get. It is a great answer. I'm being serious. That's a great answer. I'm glad I asked, and I really hats off to the authenticity and the honesty and just insight that you shared on that. So I'm glad I asked it, and thank you for your answer.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it.
Jessica, this has been awesome. This has been really, really awesome. Listen, you've got the final word. Tell people how they find you, how they want to engage with you. Hopefully it turned into some business for you. The floor is yours.
Well, Pat, Kurt, thank you so much for having me. I love what you're doing, how you're supporting leaders in marketing and communications, and giving me an opportunity today to just chat and talk and reflect. It's been really fun. You guys can learn more about TruePoint at TruePointAgency.com. You can find me on LinkedIn, Jessica Nunez. Shoot me a note if you like this, if you hated it, if there's something you said that you didn't like. I'm open to feedback. I love it. So I'd love to hear from you guys. And please support Pat and Kurt and give them a like and share their podcast, because I'm a big believer in supporting people who go out there and take the risk and do it. And you guys are doing that. And so I'll be sharing your podcast. I hope others who are listening will do the same.
This has been awesome.
Jessica, thanks for being on the pod.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Cheers. Thank you, Jessica.
Cheers.